really like the Kaio-ken as a power-up. In fact, it may very well be my favorite. It's a technique that briefly amplifies power, speed, etc. to tremendous degrees, and can be multiplied to higher and higher levels for even greater effect. But it has a downside. It can really only be used in short bursts because it puts a great strain on the body, and the higher the level used, the greater tax on the body. So it can't just be used all the time to overpower an opponent. It has to be used strategically. That's why Goku only uses it against Nappa when he's too far away otherwise to stop him from attacking Gohan and Kuririn. But when he goes up against Vegeta, he has to use the Kaio-ken just to keep up, culminating in a ×4 Kaio-ken to win in the beam struggle. But in averting that crisis, his body is wrecked. Yajirobe can't even give Goku a congratulatory pat on the back without it causing him pain. Even his appearance looks dangerous. It causes Goku to really bulk up and surrounds him with a glowing red aura. When he powers up to a Kaio-ken ×3, it's almost as if he's a spring-loaded wind-up toy that launches itself at Vegeta involuntarily. It's so powerful it causes Bluma's Scouter to explode. It's a power that's necessary to win the day, but ultimately at a huge cost. And that continues to fit in with the tone of this battle. It's yet another element that adds to the desperation. Suffice it to say that when Vegeta transforms and keeps his wits about him, Goku has no chance. He can't even gather energy for a Genki Dama without Vegeta stopping him, and he brutalizes Goku for damaging his pride, breaking all of his bones. Without the return of Gohan and Kuririn, Goku would have most certainly died. And this is where the teamwork really shines. To a certain extent, it has all throughout this arc, from Goku and Piccolo teaming up against Raditz, to the earlier fight against Nappa, to now. And what I like about this arc is just how many different configurations it uses, how many combinations of characters it tries. I mean, it even uses Yajirobe. Yajirobe, who really hasn't done much since the Piccolo arc, who does not even bother to show up to the fight initially, who runs away when Goku says Vegeta is still a threat, manages to land a crucial strike when Gohan and Kuririn aren't able to successfully remove Vegeta's tail. And while he promises to stay out of it from then on, he later stops Vegeta from killing Gohan, although he gets beaten up for his troubles. But if even the laziest, most cowardly character can play to his strengths, that's a well-written battle. It even makes up for the fact that he accidentally alerts Vegeta to the Genki Dama. Now, speaking of which, the Genki Dama is perhaps the most literal use of teamwork in the entire fight. The crushed Goku passes the Genki Dama to Kuririn, who is coached by Kaio, and when he misses, the pure of heart Gohan bounces it back to hit Vegeta. Fantastic! To be fair, despite what I said before, this is the one time in this arc where an attack is touted as the biggest, best thing ever, only for Toriyama to fake us out. But this is the only time, so it's okay. And also, while it doesn't defeat Vegeta, it still does quite a bit of damage, and you get the impression that Vegeta wouldn't have been defeated if this had not contributed to it. That's how you do something like that well. And this is where Gohan finally completes his arc. From the boy who couldn't even stand up to Nappa, he decides to head back to the battlefield against Kuririn's suggestions. He spars with Vegeta without even flinching, and the battle is settled by him transforming into his Great Ape form, ironically using the one power that Piccolo had tried to take away. And it's not just random chance. Because of his human half, Kuririn is able to communicate with him enough to get him to target Vegeta specifically. Something that Goku, for example, couldn't have done if it had been him who transformed. But pay attention to when Gohan is transforming. Vegeta initially panics, but then realizes he should focus on removing the tail. He grabs Gohan's tail and tries to rip it off, but Gohan just smacks him away. Let me repeat that. He grabs Gohan's tail, but Gohan smacks him away. Forget 15-year-old Goku being some kind of fluke of a prodigy. If even a 5-year-old can have his untrained tail grabbed without it sapping his strength, Raditz must be the most pathetic Saiyan ever. With Vegeta finally broken, he summons his spaceship to take him away. But Kuririn, showing quite a bit of pragmatism, picks up Yajirobe's katana and prepares to finish Vegeta off before he can escape. But just then, Goku contacts Kuririn telepathically, because he can just do that now. Sorry, that kind of stuff bugs me. I certainly don't mind characters having telepathic powers, but when they just randomly pick them up? Whatever. Maybe he learned it from Kaio or it rubbed off on him, I don't know. At any rate, Goku asks Kuririn to spare Vegeta, that he's never met someone as strong as him and that he feels it would be a waste to off someone so gifted. Kuririn concedes Goku has the right to ask this, and so they let the mass murderer fly off to kill more people. And hey, as a reward, Vegeta immediately threatens to come back and kill them all. Sounds like they made a great decision. But maybe this will benefit them in the future. We'll see. But at the arrival of Kami-Sennin and the others, it appears the battle is over and, for now at least, the day is saved. For all of its retcons and its handful of problems, there is so much to like in the Saiyan arc. It opens the story up in so many new directions, gives Goku a new set of powers and a haunting heritage, and delivers an absolutely epic battle that makes good use of nearly every fighting character. Something I find myself wondering is why exactly Toriyama killed off the characters that he did. Piccolo is obviously a necessity because the lack of Dragon Balls is what sets up the next story arc, and I have a hard time believing Toriyama would have bothered to send the characters all the way out into space just to resurrect Chaozu, who would be the only other character needing a different set of Dragon Balls to be revived. As for Chaozu, I stand by my belief that Toriyama just does whatever he has to get Chaozu out of the way, so he was a natural choice to die. But what about Yamcha and Ten Shinhan? On the surface, it makes quite a bit of sense. Aside from Chaozu, it seems that Toriyama was trying to avoid killing off characters who'd already died before. Neither of them had, so they were prime candidates. But because the fact of the matter is the next arc, the Frieza arc, is going to be so long and prove to be so popular, any character without a role in it is going to end up with a greatly reduced presence for the rest of the series. And while I'd like to say it was just an unintended consequence of choosing to kill off those characters, part of me can't help but think that Toriyama was already tired of Yamcha and Ten Shinhan. After all, they don't really appear in this arc except to die. And here's something else to consider. It's not out of the realm of possibility to assume that Toriyama found them redundant. I've mentioned again and again how much in common Kuririn and Yamcha seem to have, and how that would logically, in-universe, forge a strong bond between them. But could they have so much in common that they're largely the same character? I don't think that's too much of a leap to make. They are both among the earliest martial arts rivals that Goku was introduced to. They both train under Kame Sennin. Unlike later rival characters, while they are dedicated to martial arts, it doesn't completely consume them, so that they both have personalities that are more amiable and laid back than, say, Ten Shinhan or Piccolo. But here's something I think is really important. At the beginning of this arc, when Kuririn volunteers to go fight Raditz, he laments to himself that now he'll never get married. Kuririn wanting to get married is a very well-known character trait of his. As a matter of fact, it is such an intrinsic part of his character that his voice actress has actually recorded a song as Kuririn called the I Want to Get Married Mambo. It's quite catchy. But would you believe that this arc is the first time he expresses that desire? I mean, yes, he's introduced by admitting how he wants to use martial arts to impress girls, but that's quite a bit different from marriage. And remember what Yamcha's initial character motivation is? To get over his fear of women so he can, get married. So I wouldn't be surprised if Toriyama deliberately gave Kuririn Yamcha's character traits just to make him into a more well-rounded character. After all, it's not as if Kuririn had had much to do in the past two arcs. He might have been heading toward the reject pile himself, but Toriyama really rescued him in this arc, giving him plenty to do and really emphasizing that plucky everyman quality. And perhaps more importantly, he gets a chance to develop a bond with Gohan, keeping him relevant. And Piccolo becomes such an obvious Ten Shinhan 2.0 in this arc that I feel silly even having to explain it. Stoic, tough-as-nails loner with only one friend he'd literally do anything for? But what makes Piccolo better? Well, it certainly helps that his little buddy is a character Toriyama actually cares about. It's much easier to make a relationship that resonates with the audience if the characters involved aren't just there to do nothing and die. It also certainly doesn't hurt that the person Piccolo has a connection with is the son of the main character. So the Piccolo-Gohan relationship really feels like an improved version of the Ten Shinhan-Chaozu relationship. And Piccolo works so much better in this stern, quiet protector role, calmly and resolutely leading the characters into battle, than as the maniacal, two-dimensional cackler he'd been in the previous arc. Now, despite my beefs with the way that Toriyama tends to treat his characters, I can't honestly say I don't understand and sympathize. Writing is a fluid process. Not everything sticks. Not every character brings out the author's passions. And so sometimes early concepts and characters are superseded by what the author feels are more effective concepts and characters. Hey, remember in Peanuts when Shermie was a pivotal character? No, you probably don't. And that's because Charles Schultz got tired of writing him and preferred to write for newer characters he enjoyed, like Linus and Lucy. So in a certain sense, I kind of enjoy seeing the creative process, of seeing how certain newer characters take on attributes of older characters to hopefully create a stronger composite. But these are main characters in a serialized narrative, and it does detract from that narrative to have a collection of main characters who stand in the background and do nothing. And as someone who has followed these characters for such a long time and can see the potential in them, I still do find he treats a lot of them very poorly. Honestly, if Toriyama was tired of using Yamcha and Ten Shinhan, I would have preferred he would have just left them dead. Yeah, it's a bit dark for Dragon Ball and it wouldn't have worked in the context of the next story arc, but if they've already been given satisfying exits from the series, let them be like the Muten Roshi and have them bow out a bit more gracefully. And no, having them say, I suck at this and can't keep up, is not letting them bow out gracefully. Honestly, and this is a bit more controversial I'm sure, but on the same token, I wouldn't have minded if Piccolo stayed dead because, quite frankly, his days of being useful or interesting are pretty much over too. The only difference for him is that the narrative seems to keep pretending he is. By the way, this is a minor thing and more just a bit of whimsy on my part than anything else, but I should mention that after being left in the dark for the whole series up until this point, including a moment at the beginning of this arc where his friends continue to purposely skirt the issue, Goku figures out, by seeing Vegeta transform, that he is the one responsible for killing his own grandfather. And this is the perfect timing, I think. Just as learning about his heritage was, this is a loss of innocence for Goku. And they complement each other well. While Raditz' revelation is a backstory that provides more depth and insight into Goku but was retconned into existence, this is an actual secret in the narrative that has been kept from him for years. That said, isn't it a bit of a missed opportunity though? Since in this arc Goku is learning about himself, standing his ground in the face of his people, being forced to confront his greatest shame, and since he goes to the afterlife, wouldn't it have been really cool if the original Gohan appeared in this arc? That perhaps he could have given Goku some insight into science during his training? Maybe he could have told Goku, albeit reluctantly, the truth about his own death, knowing that Goku's resultant pain and guilt is less important now than being properly informed about a potential threat he'd have to face. Or he could be more vague about it, and Goku wouldn't figure out how Gohan knows all these things until the same moment he does in the story now, when Vegeta explains his great ape form, and then suddenly all the pieces fit together. Then Goku's apologies to his grandfather would resonate even more strongly. It's just a thought I had.